Warzone has gotten really sweaty. The game has been out for over 2 years, so naturally players have had time to get better, but on top of that, the player count has been shrinking, leaving the lobbies filled with sweaty players. Because let's face it, the sweats are sweats for a reason. They play a lot, and likely aren't going to stop anytime soon because they love the game. So if you still enjoy playing and want to get more wins or win more gunfights, you're going to have to get better too. But you might be thinking, how do I do that? I'm not a streamer, and I don't have 8 hours to play every day. Am I just doomed to be bad at the game? Well, over a year and a half ago, I had these same thoughts. I was losing a ton of gunfights, never seemed to make the right rotation, and I was extremely frustrated with the game. I was a shell of the man who once smiled from ear to ear dropping into the map every night. The game was quickly becoming no fun. So desperate and not sure what to do, I considered becoming the unthinkable. If I couldn't win my gunfights or get wins anymore, I would have to fully give in to the darkness. But then I thought, no way am I going to do that. I'm going to figure this out. So that's what I did. I was able to improve from having less than a 1 KD in March of 2020 to dropping 30 kill games on Rebirth Island. Even though I had a full-time job, I figured out a way to maximize my improvement in as little time as possible through an effective practice routine.
Practice? We're talking about practice, man.
I know. Practice gets a bad rap because, well, it's boring and honestly it can be a waste of time if you aren't practicing the right things. But trust me, whether you're a working parent with only 15 minutes a day or a certified demon with 8 hours a day to grind, if you follow these 4 tips, you'll see insane improvement in no time. So that was a recent high kill game of mine in a really sweaty lobby on Rebirth Island, but let's journey back to where my improvement started.
Welcome to Verdansk, a city of endless adventure. With over 8 square kilometers to explore, we know the memories you make here with your squad will last a lifetime. Come drop in today.
It was the height of the pandemic, and like many of you, I was addicted to Warzone. This was my first Battle Royale game, and there was nothing more sweet in this world than getting a win on that map with the boys. But because I was new to this style of game, getting more wins and more kills was really hard. So naturally, I turned to YouTube for help, and it was at that point that my world changed. You see, I knew that there were players better than me, but I didn't realize how much better. I started watching pro Warzone players like Huskers and Teep drop more than 30 kills a game. I didn't know that being that good was even possible. Their guns just seemed to have no recoil, and their aim was impossibly good. I immediately knew that I would do whatever it takes to be that good too. I found some videos with recommended tips on how to get better, and I got to work. I started shooting bots every day, learned how to slide cancel, and wouldn't you know it, I started to get better. My KD went up a little bit, I started to win gunfights I certainly would have lost in the past, and I was really happy with my progress. But after a few months and building a new PC, my improvements started to plateau. I would have moments where my aim felt really good, and then the next gunfight, I was shooting octagons around my opponents. I'd gotten better, but I just wasn't consistent. And it took me a while to realize it, but it was the way I was practicing that was holding me back. I needed to focus on mindful repetition, not mindless repetition. And here's what I did. Instead of mostly shooting bots without a practice plan, I started to spend more time making up drills to practice specific skills. For instance, I spent hours shooting different guns into signs on multiplayer maps to practice my recoil control until it was really good. And I spent hours on top of Euphrates Bridge shooting bots to practice the long distance tracking skills that I would need in Verdansk. And to practice my movement, I made up different courses to simulate in-game situations. But I didn't train for hours at a time. I just showed up consistently and spent 15 to 30 minutes per day hyper-focused on 1 or 2 skills that I really wanted to improve. And then once I was good at that skill, I moved on to something else. This way of practicing gave me a clear focus and helped me avoid distractions to get the most out of my practice time. Because I wasn't just mindlessly shooting bots, I was mindfully repeating practice drills for improvement. Now, I know you might be thinking, how did you know what to practice?
What are you, psychic or something?
Well, I'm glad you asked. It was pretty obvious that I needed to work on my aiming, so I started with that first, and as I got better, I actually started recording my gameplays because I thought I was going to start dropping high kill games and hitting sick clips all the time. Yeah, I was a little ambitious. But my foolishness actually worked out in my favor because when I started to watch back my game footage, I quickly saw that my movement and aiming weren't nearly as good as the top players. I was a decent player, but I constantly put myself in bad situations and didn't have the gun skill to fight my way out. So I started recording myself every day, and I would watch back my deaths from the previous game as I was queuing into a new game. And I would ask myself questions like, could I have made a better rotation? Did I overcommit to that gunfight? Is my centering as good as Aiden's?
Oh, what are you, nuts?
Okay, I wasn't delusional. I knew my gameplay wasn't nearly as good as Aiden's. I mean, not even close. But by asking myself these questions and comparing myself to really good players, I got better and better myself. But why? Well, it's the same reason athletes watch film to prep for the next game. You can identify patterns of information and store it in your memory, which allows you to respond quickly to different situations in an actual game. If we analyze that last death of mine, we can see that I quickly down the first player, get the full, and then immediately get challenged by his teammate and lose the gunfight. Now, if we reflect on what I could have done different, sure, I could have hit more of my shots, but more importantly, I shouldn't have focused on getting my full kill. Instead, I should have anticipated his teammate pushing me, and I should have pre-aimed the door. So having reflected on this, I can now create a plan of action to do better in the next game. For example, I can practice shooting bots and immediately flick to another target, which helps train my brain to do so when I'm in a match. Or I can simply jot down a note to remind myself before I start playing every day. And over time, by repeating this system or feedback loop is how I developed my game sense. And the great part about it was I mostly did this review during the downtime between matches, so I was also saving myself time. But the only reason I was able to do all of this was because I started recording my gameplay, even though it was kind of by mistake.
We don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents.
And using these two tips, my skill level exploded over the next few months. I switched to playing Rebirth Island because of the hacking problem on Verdansk, and I started to see improvement in every part of my gameplay. My aim was feeling consistent, my movement was getting really smooth, and my reaction time was quicker than ever. I was finally feeling confident in my gameplay, and this confidence led to me dropping my first 20 kill game on Rebirth Island. I can't even begin to describe that feeling. All the hard work, all the time spent practicing over the past year, it had finally paid off. I felt just like the pro players I watched on YouTube, and I knew that nothing could stop me now.
I'm the king of the world!
But you know, as they say, the good times, they don't last forever. Instead of taking a moment to enjoy this accomplishment, I went right back into the matchmaking gauntlet. I had finally gotten a taste of success on Rebirth Island, and I was desperate for even more. I thought that it was going to be easier to get more high kill games now that I'd proven to myself that I could do it. But boy was I wrong. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, and no matter what I did, I just couldn't get another 20 kill game. And each day my frustration grew just a little bit more. It just didn't make any sense. I was winning most of my gunfights and making smart plays, but despite getting really close several times, it was just never enough. I became so obsessed with this one goal that eventually my frustration began to completely take over. None of my deaths were my fault anymore. It had to be the game. The servers were too laggy, players camped too much, my lobbies were way too hard. I just couldn't do it, and it was driving me insane.
The night is darkest just before the dawn. And I promise you, the dawn is coming.
I was down, but I wasn't quite yet out. You see, I learned from playing sports at an early age that it's not always about the final result. It's about the journey and the persistence to get better. Now, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have thoughts of quitting around this time, but I had simply come too far for that. And after some thought, I realized that it was my frustration that was holding me back. I had to resubscribe to the 1% improvement mentality. I simply can't control everything that goes on around me. Some days I'm gonna get tough lobbies, and some days it's going to be a camp fest. But what I can control is my commitment to getting 1% better every week. There's a reason why arguably the best player in Call of Duty history tweets nearly the same thing out every week. He knows that every day is an opportunity to get just a little bit better. This was just another small setback, I was going to figure out how to get more high kill games. So back to the drawing board I went. I spent hours watching the top players on Twitch and analyzing my game footage, trying to unlock the secret for more kills. And slowly a pattern began to emerge. I realized that I was passing up on too many opportunities, and the lobbies were dying out before I could reach my goal. I was playing smart, but way too slow. To unlock the next level of skill, I had to start pushing teams by myself and learn how to win with the odds stacked against me. Good players can get lucky and get a high kill game every once in a while, but great players create their own luck. So over the next few months, I fully committed to playing more aggressive, and it was brutal at first, and I died a lot. It even brought back some of the painful memories of feeling like a complete bot during the early days of Verdansk, but I stuck with it, and eventually, I started to consistently drop high kill games. The only way to learn how to push teams was to fully commit and not be afraid to fail. I hope these 4 tips help you on your journey to get better, because they certainly changed everything for me. And if you need some help dialing in the right aim sensitivity settings, check out this video right here. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.